Recording in progress. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for gathering today for another Mastermind. This is a platform that I call 2.0. It is a company organization that I created a while ago, and we were going on steady for about 7 years pre-COVID. And the point of organizing thought leaders in the field of fitness, health, wellness, and entrepreneurship is a meta tribe. It's to give ourselves the chance to connect with each other, those that are established and have their own practice and have so much experience to cross-pollinate and share skills. It's not often that you find industries that do cross-pollinate, and I think there's a lot of value in that. And so from the previous mastermind sessions where we focus on a topic and we talk to these masters to really tease out the coolest, innovative solutions and real-time advice, it really acts as a chance for us to case study situations and learn from each other, to support each other. And I think that one of the things we often lose is the care for ourselves, for each other, and for the industry that we get to partake in. And so previously I've hosted a mastermind on community, on mental health, on connection, and this one tonight is on business and entrepreneurship. So without further ado, my name's Julian, and I just wanted to have this roundtable introduction for these amazing experts to share who they are and their background. And we're going to go for about 90 minutes. So buckle up and let's get going. First up, David Moskowitz. So David, could you introduce yourself and share who you are and your background?
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that, Julian. And I am honored to be amongst the other panelists here. So thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for honoring me with being amongst other leaders, especially in this place. Some of I've met before, some who I'm meeting tonight. So I'm happy to be a part of this. My background is a bit different in the wellness industry that I've ended up in. I spent just over 26 years in law enforcement, working my way through the municipal government, law enforcement, and then ending up into business. I opened up a business in California, cleaning and disinfecting during COVID, and ended up running that for a couple of years, and then found myself researching into the wellness industry and found Stretchlab. We ended up bringing Stretchlab to Canada. We were the brand ambassadors for that and opened up the first Stretchlab in Canada. During that process, we decided also to venture into a multidisciplinary clinic called Mobility House. And during that time, I also launched, for the past 3 years, my own podcast about my journey and my co-host journey, both leaving law enforcement around the same time. We both decided to record our journey and speak to people in business and in finance and in health and wellness and different other fields too. So we started a podcast called Making Waves Mindset, and have been running that as well. So I've been sort of multifaceted over the years. I've spent my time in law enforcement. I've been educated as an adult educator in college, as a professor teaching, and now I find myself I call myself the growth expert. I love seeing people grow and seeing people find their growth in their jobs and their well-being. So I'm loving being part of this wellness industry, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm loving the journey that I'm on. So that's sort of me in a nutshell. I'll leave it to the next.
Amazing. I had a really nice chat and long talk with David. Actually, we met a couple of times, and to give context, David is all of those hats in a way that feels so nurturing, and also he displays leadership in a way that's very unique amongst. If you were to hear his introduction as a law enforcement, like police officer, you hear that first, you're kind of intimidated. But he's the most gentle, kind, and thoughtful person, and very insightful at the same time. And that's something that's quite rare, especially as like a business owner or founder or anyone that has sort of the hats and titles that you have. So it was a pleasure, and it continues to be a pleasure to learn more about you, David. And I'm really excited to learn more as we talk amongst this another great panel group.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Next up, Cheryl Willberg.
Thank you so much. And I'll just echo David. It's such a pleasure to be here on the panel tonight, and obviously know a couple of you, and great to meet you guys as well. So my name is Cheryl Willberg, and I am a self-proclaimed life athlete. I am a PR, marketing, and brand expert. I am the founder and chief motivator of City Shred, which is Canada's leading wellness and fitness community and event series. I am a partner and director of the Publicist group. I am a triathlete, a community advocate, and a certified mindset coach. I've been in the health and wellness industry for quite some time now, and honestly, it is an industry that I am extremely passionate about, an industry where I find inspiration from so many people that I come across. It keeps me inspired and motivated, and I feel so lucky and blessed to be a part of this. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with you all tonight. And that's a little bit about me.
Yes. Oh man, it is so cool to have you here, Cheryl. I think it's really amazing to hear from people who run top-notch businesses and see them explode in their popularity and also sustain for a healthy amount of time. And also leading at such a high level, you also put the sweat equity in. I mean, you are a pretty hardcore triathlete. You're like, I think you place like top 10 in like the triathlon world championships, right?
Yeah, it was very exciting. It was such a great year. Yes, thank you.
Huge. Amazing. I mean, that in essence is for me like mad respect. That's like when someone can walk the talk, run a very successful business, multiple businesses, and perform at a high level, you know, you are definitely pushing it and maximizing your genetics at the same time. So really, really honored to have you as well here. Next up, Larry Lau.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. I'll echo again what David and Cheryl said. Just it's great to be a part of this and amongst this panel and be able to share our stories. So as Julian mentioned, my name is Larry Lau. I was born and raised in London, Ontario. I live here now in Toronto. I guess like my whole history and my whole background, I've been an entrepreneur my whole career. I originally actually started out kind of wanting to go through like the whole medical route. Not that my parents pressured me to go to med school, because they actually thought I was going to fail miserably. But for whatever reason, I wanted to be a sports surgeon. Like Kobe Bryant, you tear your meniscus. Like I wanted to be the person that was going to stitch them, like fix their ACL, MCL, and all that kind of stuff. So that was very short-lived. After first year of university, I actually started out in the kinesiology program, much like Julian, who successfully finished that program. And I just kind of went through a couple of things where my dad lost his job, and like I grew up in the, very, very poor, and kind of just realized that I needed to kind of create my own, I guess like my own path and create financial freedom for my family. So not knowing exactly what I was going to do, I kind of just decided that I needed to be an entrepreneur, because working a job just isn't going to cut that. So started a couple of different ideas, kind of like during and immediately after university. My first, I guess, like successful business, you could say, was a digital marketing company that I started back in 2011. Started making websites for local businesses for a few $100s, getting paid with like protein powder because they wouldn't pay us. And then over 5-6 years, grew to about 70 full-time employees. And then before I sold that company back in 2016, 2017, our biggest client was Rexall. So it was like a $1.5 million contract. So I kind of exited the company and then sold it to my other business partners who continue to carry on that business today. just found out today in the news that they got acquired by a private equity company. So it's great to see that legacy. But since then, since 2016, 2017, I've been a serial entrepreneur, co-investing, building new businesses, investing into a lot of companies, sitting on board, doing a lot of advisory work. So within the health and wellness space, I guess like a couple brands that would be notable or would be recognized would be Myodetox. I've been a part of that company really since the beginning. Scott and Vinny, who are the founders, I was kind of like in the background, so my first company, and then actually helped run and build that company kind of in the background while they were raising money and helping with the expansion in Los Angeles and Vancouver. So I'm still kind of pseudo involved, but was Myodetox first investor, and then just been pretty industry agnostic across multiple industries. So CPG, another company that I'm a big investor in is Wakewater. I think a very loved Toronto caffeinated sparkling water company. But just like a lot of different things like CPG, e-commerce, tech, health and wellness, cannabis, logistics, really the full gamut. But primarily now I've been back in the operator seat over the last couple of years, building this company called Run As You Are, which is a running health consumer brand. But I can keep going, but I'll end it there.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, when we met and talked in depth, I mean, we chatted and we planned for what, like maybe 2 hours? It was like an hour and a half or so. It was like 2.5 hours that we just chatted, which was incredible. So you can definitely talk. So can I. And so when you have us talking together, it's like, wow, time flies when you're so engaged. So, and there's also so much that you've done, which is wild. So definitely want to learn more about that. But on with the show. Next up, we have Shay Myers. Hello, welcome.
Hi everyone. Thanks again for having me. My name is Shay Myers, and I am a financial literacy advocate and champion, as well as a financial services professional. And I went from having $200 to my name and a 476 credit score to having a successful financial literacy platform where I educate Canadians on how money works and help them eliminate the fear of finance. So my special power, my superpower is simplifying money, because it is a topic that people are often hesitant to approach. It can be overwhelming, scary, and stiff at times. And I've created a platform where I eliminate that fear, simplify money, and empower people to address their financial concerns. And I have a financial services business called Finance for the Culture. And the culture is essentially anyone who is left behind from the lack of financial education that is in the education system. And I've been doing this for the past 4 years. And my mission is essentially to revolutionize the industry, to make it more accessible, digestible, fun, and diverse. And I'm happy to be here.
Yay. So Shay and I like recently met, but the thing that really hooked me into investigating, who is this person? There's so many people that I respect and admire that all follow her. And I was like, okay, I got to get to know Shay. And so we had this lovely talk and learned pretty quickly, you know, you are really good at what you do and you reach people because you approach it in a very holistic way. And you not only reach people that way, but you also practice what you preach, kind of like Cheryl does with her triathloning. You know, you live a lifestyle that people can relate to. And I think that's one of the first steps to being someone who is so skilled, but also has the ability to come, let's say, down a couple notches. If we were talking about hierarchy of just like, you guys are so like established and sophisticated and veterans of your fields that you're able to still reach everyone, no matter, you know, what their background is, who they are, how much experience they have. And I think that's a really unique factor amongst all of us. And that's why I kind of reached out to all of you, is that we're all I'm a big Star Wars guy. We're all kind of like Jedis, you know. We believe in the light and the positivity, and there is an altruistic nature to us. We are very headstrong, mindful, but heart-centric and holistic in how we approach what we do. And I think that's what makes all of us successful. And I think there's an opportunity to sort of redefine what success is, especially in the connotation of business and entrepreneurship. Typically, you think of successful business, cha-ching, lots of money. Well, the idea of monetary as a metric is one thing, but another thing is value. Value can be monetary, value can be impact, value could be social change, value can be, you know, community and connection in donating to charity. You know, there's so much to value to that. So there's a little bit of a bigger, larger background of why I kind of reached out to all of you. But what I'd like to go into next is your X factor. You know, I sought you out for certain reasons, but I'd love for you to share what people seek you out for as your X factor. What makes you special? What's your secret sauce? What's your superpower? Maybe I can jump to Larry. And Larry, what is your X factor? What makes you unique?
It's a great question. For a long time, I used to have like imposter syndrome, especially the early days, but it's much less so in the last probably 5-6 years. But I think a lot of it has to do with my kind of like diverse background. So I've been an operator. I've been an active angel investor with a portfolio of 40 companies. I've consulted VC firms for deals that they're doing. I've been part of sales. I've been part of acquisitions. So I think a lot of my X factor has to do with the fact of having a lot of experience, but also across a lot of different industries. So sometimes I see something in a different space, like a completely different vertical that wouldn't operate a certain way. But because of my experience in a completely different business, I've kind of molded hybrid business models. And then just through my experience, and I think the X factor, and it's hard to explain, but just how I'm wired, I've been able to really kind of like create opportunities for people, some of my employees that were early on kind of loyal individuals that I've kind of brought into different opportunities because they, within a, I guess like a role, like there's only so much growth and so much like value creation that they can have. But I've been kind of building this like roster of people over the last like 12, 13 years that now these are people that I've kind of molded and they know how I think, what I expect. So I think my X factor has been a lot around just like creating opportunities and then also kind of being able to help guide a lot of these businesses and avoid a lot of those mistakes, because I've been there and kind of like done that. And not to say that I know the answers and I have a magic 8-ball, but a lot of it is more about you don't know what you don't know, but I can try to help avoid some of those common mistakes.
You know, that touches upon, you know, people trust people with experience and also expertise. You know, you've got a broad horizon and you also got vertical. So that brings a lot of data points and people trust a lot of data. And although everyone approaches issues with a different context and circumstance, you know, you most likely, Larry, you've gone through it. You have an idea. You're like, oh, that kind of sounds familiar with something I did, you know, 3 years ago or something that, and I think that is such an amazing skill set. It's connecting the dots for people and really showing them that this is the path of previous. Here's how we can walk the path together with a little bit of guidance. So I think that's amazing. That's really, really cool. Cheryl, how about you? What's your X factor other than being an amazing like triathlete?
Thank you. So I was thinking about this. I think that my X factor, I think it would be, to kick it off, I think it would probably be my energy. So I'd say energy and determination, but for sure I could, you know, probably race a half Ironman this weekend, probably launch an event the next day, and then go into a busy week of events. I like to say that I curate events and opportunities around energy and motivation. And I think that it's super important when you're trying to create something to exude that. And to your point exactly, Julian, about, defining success, that's something that, I think we all think about. And, I started my PR and marketing firm, I think 11 years ago. And to your point in the beginning, it was, how much money can we make? And then, as we go through life, maybe we understand a little bit more how life is about a feeling. And once you sort of get that sense of happiness, maybe we're able to look at success or through that lens a little bit differently. Not everyone needs to create a business where they're super passionate about it. For me, it is definitely who I am through and through. So it's one of the reasons why, the types of clients that I really work with are, where I would be the consumer, because I do get really excited. But I think, to kind of like just hit on the energy aspect, it really is like, I have that energy. If there's something that I want, I know how to go out and get it. I think it's super important, especially as an entrepreneur, trial and error a little bit, lots of research and development, community building, connecting with people such as we are tonight. These are all things that have really helped me find success in various ways, and not just success, but great people and great energy. And going back to that energy, I feel like it really is kind of just like well-rounded. And that's certainly why energy would be my X factor.
Yeah, you can tell that there's a lot of go-getterness in you and the drive. And I think a lot of people, when they want to get good work done, they need to feel that energy through osmosis. And that instills, a focus, a determination, a strong motive, a really clear North Star. So when you exude that, the people that you work with probably just level up their vibe naturally just by being, again, in your aura. So that in itself, without even having to really, theorize and give data and insight innovation, just that energy alone is like an incredible, even just first step. So I really feel that. I'm sure we all feel that in you too, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Next, let's talk to Shay. What's your X factor?
Yes, so many things. However, I'll say specific to my business, my ability to simplify, as well as my warmth. So the approach that I take to explaining financial concepts. I'm a very empathetic and patient person, and that has taken me so far, specifically in this industry. And I remember being in math class when I was younger and not being great at math and having my teachers tell me I should know this, we've already gone through this. And I told myself that I would never make someone else feel that way. And so I've been a tutor, I've been a teacher, I've taught in the Northwest Territories, I have a lot of teaching background under my belt, and it's been a blessing to bring that same patience and empathy to this space specifically, especially when you're working with people who may have never addressed their finances before. Maybe they're coming from lots of trauma. It's a new space, it's overwhelming, and to be able to create that warm environment for them, that would be my X factor. And something that I hear often is that I'm like sunshine, and I don't take that lightly, because there's a lot going on in the world, and if I can just make somebody feel comfortable and be able to open up, like, that's the best thing. Again, especially in this industry, it's known to be stiff. It's known to be, a lot of sometimes making people feel bad because they don't know as much as you, or making it obvious that they don't know as much as you. And I just really want to change that, and that comes through the way I teach. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely really important to be empathetic. For those that are listening, because this is going to be posted as not only a video, but also an audio podcast. The point of sharing everyone here's X factor is it's really important to share the ingredients that form a leader. And I'm just stating the obvious here, but for us to hear how Larry's broad experience and Cheryl's high energy and Shay's empathy and patience, like these are incredible qualities and characteristics that for anyone that's young or in need of inspiration, maybe these are clues that could help solve maybe some of the issues that may come in front of you based on just personality traits. So really, really love the diversity of character traits that we're getting from these X factors. Last but not least, David.
Yeah, thank you. It's I love going last sometimes because you get you get the answers to what you were going to say ahead of time. And it's interesting because when I hear from other leaders like we have on the panel, I resonate with all three of everyone here. A lot of what sets me apart as being a leader is my multidimensional approach to leadership. So I take my years of law enforcement, the structured strategic thinking, and that I had to use in law enforcement, but I also added a personal touch of empathy. And what I always say, my tagline I always say to people is treat humans as humans and treat people as humans. And we need to get back to treating people. So I spend a lot of time with my staff. I spend a lot of time with friends. I spend a lot of time with other people who I interact with in business and just listening to them and allowing them to talk and allowing them to be who they are and their true and natural self. And that has given me the opportunity to collaborate with people. And I love collaboration. I love community engagement. It's part of what I've been doing for so many years. And I've brought that into any business that I have. And it gives me that ability to treat people the way they want to be treated instead of just looking at them as a number. One of the biggest things that I changed with our companies is we don't give people employee numbers. Employee numbers do not exist. And the reason being is I spent 26 years as a number. I spent 26 years. Anytime I would call HR, what's your employee number instead of what's your name? Anytime I would call to do something in law enforcement over the radio, it was your badge number immediately. So you're just a number. I don't have employee numbers. I want to know everyone's name, and people are people. And we really treat people as humans and get down to the root cause of what makes people tick and what makes people have a good time and what makes people sad and angry and happy. And if you cultivate all that stuff, that's when you're a successful, and that's success to me. Yes, you can make millions of dollars doing business, but having happy workers and people who want to come to work for you, that's where I find that so far it's worked well for me. I am not as tenured as the rest of the panel here in business. I'm fairly new at it, but I spent 26 years in leadership as well in law enforcement, and it did really, really well there. So I find it's my little X factor.
All right. Yeah. The diverse forms of leadership, like the adaptability, your collaborative sense, I think that's what makes world go round for sure. We can't solve these issues, in a silo. We need to collaborate and connect with others as well. So we've kind of talked about X Factor as almost like the soft skills part of business leadership and entrepreneurship, the EQ part of it. I don't know if we're going to really dive so deep into the IQ, hard skills, numbers, that kind of stuff. I feel like the conversations in that are best suited approaching each of these professionals one-on-one specifically, also because, a lot of the issues that you might have if you were looking to reach out to either of these panelists members is so contextual and specific. So, but we will get to advice for starting a business. It's not just rainbows and sunshine. There's some hardships and tough numbers to crunch and margins to make and yada yada, that kind of stuff. But let's continue on. Just wanted to give us another general overview to kind of ground us. But next up, I'd like to ask you each about a flex. A flex is something that you feel most proud of, whether it's an accomplishment, achievement, You won a business deal, you won someone over. Tell us about a proud accomplishment, what I call a flex. I want to throw to Shay to start us off on this conversation. What's your flex?
I would say it's actually not necessarily business related. It's more so my ability to stay calm in chaotic situations. I think that is a really, really big flex. I could list many situations, or even like potential conflicts where I have a really good ability to stay neutral. And I believe that comes from having a strong sense of self, being able to pause, not being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Impulsive?
Yes, like not reacting right away, being curious, asking questions, getting the full story, like all of those things, I believe it is really important in business, especially, I work with different people all the time, different personalities. It's really important that I'm able to manage my emotions within those situations. And I don't know if anybody's been on social media lately. I feel like it's not really a popular skill right now. So it's helped me avoid conflict. It's helped me maintain friendship, keep friendships, relationships. So I would say that is a flex. And then if we are going to talk business, I did recently win a business grant, which is great. And the purpose of that, thank you. And the purpose of that is to be able to continue to facilitate workshops, financial literacy workshops that are free to the public. So again, really eliminating those barriers. Um, I have plans to put on workshops where there's childcare, so parents can come if they have children and know that their kids can get taken care of and they can just focus on learning. And then outside of that, there's a lot of coaching opportunity that came with that as well, helping me, just create more brand visibility. So that's another flex as well.
Well done. Yeah, that's great.
Thank
A
you.
huge vote of confidence in the work that you do, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
when whatever the organization provided this grant, they clearly understand what you do and they want to back it. I think that is obviously something to be proud of, but it echoes to the work that you do. So yeah, love that. Thanks, Shay. Another flex. Let's go with Larry.
I think as entrepreneurs and as business owners, you don't probably get a lot of chance to reflect on your flex because you're just like trying to put out fires. So I think this is actually like a really nice question. And I was having a bit of a hard time when I was kind of got the preview of this. I think one that I think is like really something that I'm really, really proud of is for myself individually. And it's really because of all the people that I've worked with and the people that have supported me in like maybe more from an emotional standpoint or from like a knowledge standpoint, but really like grew up like quite poor, didn't have like families or they weren't giving me a business opportunity or they gave me money to start off. It was like really bootstrapped. And I think reflecting on this question, I think over these last 12 years of building many businesses from zero to multi-million, but then also just having this. I think Cheryl talked about she talked about energy and this like relentless pursuit to get shit done. Really, and I think that's very much myself. And through that, I've been able to be very fortunate to be now involved with many companies I've been a part of from ground zero to like for its first million to for its first 10 million to now like companies that I'm involved with that is doing 100 million plus revenue annually. So just knowing, like reflecting back on that is kind of wild. Just because I don't really know how I got here in many ways. There's a whole bunch of other ones, but I think that's like really, that's personally, and I think something that I've been really proud of is I'm very committed to like giving back. I'm on a board of like, I was on the board of Goodwill Industries in Ontario, Fanshawe College is the board of governor. And I think I want to continue to do that, but just really busy. But I think one of the things I'm very proud of is setting up like my own personal foundation and then having a scholarship. So yeah.
Damn,
Being able to give back. Yeah. So
that is a flex. Did you put that, I don't know, in the kinesiology department at Western?
I didn't, but actually it is at Western.
Oh,
because
okay.
my first year I was, I mentioned like how my dad got laid off, but I was this terrible student that was academically terrible. But in second year, I couldn't qualify for OSAP just because it was my mom's, the first year was my mom's first time working. She was like a mature student, very inspirational. But then my dad was kind of like, oh, like this is great. Like I can kind of take some time off, but I couldn't qualify for OSAP. So my scholarship is actually not around academics. It's actually about community involvement without the need for having a certain criteria, but it's also for financial aid as well. So.
Wow, that is giving back right there. Good stuff. Next up, let's go with David.
What's my flex? So when you said this comment it was hard for me to obviously look back at myself and see what I've done. I'm very proud of the work I did in law enforcement. I created the first community engagement unit for the transit system when I was there, which is a unit that was strictly dedicated to breaching between relations of the enforcement department, all the constables, and the public. So I created that unit, still around today. So I'm very proud of that. But I think what I'm most proud of is the collaboration efforts that I honed in on throughout my 26 years of working in the city that I'm still able to call upon to this day and continue that collaboration effort. We did this wellness together event during the summer where I was able to pull together in 2 months a mini wellness event where we had over 1,500 people attend. We raised $2,500 for Daily Bread Food Bank and get some people to come out there to build the community and have the community join together and collaborate businesses and not compete with each other. And I think I'm really proud of that aspect. And I guess the third thing that I'm very proud of to this day is being such a short tenure in business. I was able to hire all my employees without spending $1. We have not advertised any paid services to employ people. It's all been word of mouth and social media, free social media. So we've been able to do that, which I'm very proud of.
Wow, that usually it takes a good amount of money to get people on. So kudos to you, and also awesome to know that you are still very well protected amongst your peers of police officers. So if we all need a little extra backup, I'm sure you got our back.
Yeah, I think between me and Larry's connections, if you're ever in pain, we'll be able to help you out.
Awesome. Yes. And finally, Cheryl, tell us about your flex, something that you feel very, very proud of.
All right. Well, first of all, love hearing that because I'm in pain often, guys. So first and foremost, it's actually so interesting when you ask the question about, what's one of your flexes. It's interesting where, we've all done so much, yet, you're thinking about, how do I say this or should I be humble? First and foremost, like one of the things that I really believe when it comes to business is being able to celebrate your accomplishments. One of the greatest things about celebrating your accomplishments is being able to utilize that fuel to continue to accomplish more. And yet, I too was sitting there thinking like, oh my goodness, like, what is my flex? And it's funny because, some people will say to me like, Cheryl, I think you've accomplished more this year than, some people have in the last 10 years. And, so it's just interesting when you hear that, but love hearing everyone's celebrations or accomplishments. I'd say that one of my biggest flexes was actually starting City Shred. I started City Shred in 2018. And at the time I was working with a client and doing their PR. And as I'd mentioned, energy and passion and sort of being the consumer to the clients that I worked with, I walked in and I was pitching them on, the next annual strategy. And actually I had pitched them City Shred. I knew that, community marketing was something that was extremely important. We were going to continue to see a lot more of it in the future. And I had laid out this entire pitch, and it was amazing because they came back to me and they said, actually, we don't have the manpower to do this event, but what we do want to do is write you a check to be your first sponsor. And actually you should be the one to build and host City Shred. So that was a really big flex for me, because if there are two things I talk about a lot in terms of, building businesses, especially when I'm chatting at schools, it's like, be a good person and work hard. And I think that was something that really came back in that moment. And I was super proud of it. And I will continue to be proud of that moment. So that was certainly a really big flex for me. And I'm going to mention one more because this year has been a really incredible year for me. But in May, I was heading out to Spain to race my first half Ironman of the year. And I had trained extremely hard, and I was going into this race. I mean, I always have really big goals. So, I was looking at a top 3 placement, qualifying for Worlds and a big PB. And I got to Spain. I brought my mom. My mom has given me everything, like yourself, Larry, and Shay as well. I didn't grow up with very much, but every time I came home, my parents were always very big and supportive and telling me that I was capable of everything that I believe that I am. So I was so excited to bring my mom to Europe and have her watch me race there in Mallorca and my top 3 placement. And I got onto the course. I got into my swim. It was the best swim that I had ever had. I got onto the bike course. I had started on my bike course 20 kilometers in, and I fell and I crashed and my bike was broke. I was on the ground, road rash, bleeding, and that was it for that race. And in that moment, it was very interesting because, of course, I was really sad. It was a little bit, I was confused at the time. There's so much adrenaline. I was in 5th place at the time, and I was kind of pacing back and forth. And, the coolest feeling through all of it was that in that moment, I realized that I was right where I belonged. And I realized that it wasn't just one race, it was a part of the journey. And it's taken me a long time to create boundaries and dig deep and find what I love and stick to it and believe in myself and foster this incredible community of support. And in that moment was like a super big flex for me, because I think that perspective is absolutely everything. But on that specific day, with my mom there, I got to spend 5 days with her, not training, not sore after an Ironman, but actually just getting to explore Europe and a place she had never been. And really just sort of this like newfound love and appreciation for everything that I had put into that, knowing that that was just one part of my journey and that I was on the exact path that I'm supposed to be on. And that's a really big flex for me this year.
Such a like atypical flex, because the perspective shift, like that's something that like light bulb in me was like, oh wow, yeah, that is something you don't get often, and it's a different narrative and it's a whole different way of looking at what happened. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, and also knowing that how important family is. I think those are the things that we often forget when climbing the ladder of success. We deprioritize some of the most important things, and I think that's that's something not to be taken lightly, especially since, over COVID and pandemic times, we've had the struggles. We've all felt the isolation, and we've had like inner conflicts, family conflicts. There's so many things that we have absolutely zero control over, yet from your story, it's how we respond to these adverse situations. That is the biggest takeaway that I got from you. So thank you for sharing all of your flexes, team. Now on to the sort of flip side, which almost seems like a lead from Cheryl, which would naturally be called like a failure. But let's go into that world. So I think we learn so much from failing. I think business people in general almost use the failures as a flex. So why don't we go there? David, can you share with us a failure that you learned tremendously from?
Yeah, definitely. My first failure was opening up the first business and thinking that I had the tools necessary based on my years of being a leader in law enforcement to run a business. That was the first like punch in the face, I call it. And it was getting out thinking I was just going to open a business, open a website, and all of a sudden people would come to me. So this was in California, opened up a cleaning business during COVID, March of 2020. And I thought all of a sudden, oh, for sure, I just have to start up a website, open up a bank account, and put out some flyers and be okay. And nobody called. Nobody wanted to use us. No one knew who we were. Everyone's like, okay, I have cleaning companies. I have people to go to. So the reality of, no, you need to actually get out of your house and go deliver flyers door to door in 42-degree weather in California and go door to door. And that was probably it wasn't, I wouldn't say a failure on my end, but it was a reality check. Business is hard and business is grind and business needs to be earned, and you can't just be fortunate enough of the small percentage of people who are very lucky in business. You have to grind that, and it taught me a hard lesson of hard work in business. And I would spend 12, 13, 15-hour days walking from door to door in residential and door to door in businesses and dropping flyers off and getting told to get off people's lawns, especially in the United States, where they're like, get off my lawn or my gun's coming out, or get off my lawn and you're in the wrong part of town here, sir. Stuff like that. And walking into businesses and people telling me no, no, no. So it was definitely a reality check. And I think that's the failure to success that I learned really fast in getting into this business, even though I haven't been tenured long, was to put in the work and to put in the time and energy that you really need. And you can't just fake it. You have to actually put that time and effort in.
Yeah. What a reality check. It's so funny to hear just the idea of going door to door, because I don't know if anyone does that ever. I've experienced that. Have you guys done door to door before? Yeah, everyone here. Larry, no? Okay.
Humbling experience.
Not like residential door to door, but I've gone to like just cold calling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like, I don't think the generations that are coming now, like Gen Zs and Alphas, they're not going to experience door to door. They have no idea what that is. It's so funny to like now think about how business and marketing and promotion has changed. And even just like the old wives' tales of, or whatever, I don't know what you'd call it, but like, if you build it, they will come. Field
of Dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
From a movie.
Yes, that's not true. It's almost like a false hope kind of thing. How often does that actually happen? Unless you're run as you are, Raya. I'm joking. But yeah, let's go into shifting to Cheryl and speaking to Cheryl about a failure. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll talk a little bit maybe about sort of just like getting into my career, but I remember my very first job, I was working at a bank and doing corporate communication. And I was very eager, as I'm sure you guys could all imagine. But I remember being sat down by one of my managers, and I know that he was saying it with a kind heart, but he told me that I would actually never be successful if I spoke the way that I did, because I came across like a valley girl and I was too energetic. And here I am working at the bank. And it was really hurtful at the time to hear that, also because, I mean, it's not that easy to change your voice, or, in this excitement that you have like going in to the workplace. So I ended up leaving that job and I ended up going into agency, and same thing, very eager to be in agency, was working with a VP who was not very happy and energetic. And actually, not even a year later, I got fired from there as well. And I remember the CFO bringing me in and letting me go and telling me that there was no reason really that they were going to let me go, but that it would probably be for the best. And that was really hard to have, my very two first experiences, and in school, straight A's, very eager. I don't come from anything. There's no one helping me out. So I mean, I know that the paycheck that I bring in is the food that I'm going to eat and everything else. And here I was. So those were, some pretty big moments of failure. And, much to what I was just chatting about, crashing on my bike, I think that, one of my blessings has always been perspective and believing in myself. And I think from, both of those failures, I really got to learn the type of leader that I wanted to be, and communities that I wanted to foster, which probably now 10 plus years later is probably to no surprise why I take so much pride in building community and love talking so much about connection and positivity, because of my two failures that I started out right off the bat. But very thankful for both of them, because it was those two moments that said, you know what, hey, Cheryl, you know what, you probably will be an entrepreneur. And here I am.
Yeah, that's, when you get let go or fired, just to even share that is tough, of course. But man, does it light a fire up your butt to like get going, to prove them wrong.
It definitely feels, it feels great, to be on the other side of it, but also, just to use it as fuel. Like even my manager from the beginning, I know he was actually saying it out of the kindness of his heart. Like he liked me and he knew that I was eager. I mean, was he right in what he was saying? And, I truly believe it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And, you have to be careful when you're speaking to people. Confidence, is a huge thing, especially for people entering into the workplace. So, it probably wasn't done in the best way, but, perspective is everything. And I know he wasn't trying to hurt me, but he definitely did fuel me. And I'm thankful for all of the hardships, as I'm sure it sounds like, Larry as well. I mean, you use it as fuel. And, when your perspective is on that side of things, it can be, a really great lesson.
Yeah, redemption is really powerful. And growing pains, like it's stuff that we have to go through. It just sucks when someone does it to you, but it's actually for you. It's like, if the conversation, like, I'm going to do you a favor, Cheryl, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to let you go. You're going to remember this 10 years from now, because you're going to, you're going to use me as like that kind of thing. I feel like if you're in a position when you have to let someone go, it's very delicate. There's a fine line between like empowering them, but obviously it sucks at the moment, or seeing them negative spiral. So what you said about the person that let you go, how they did it, was very important. I think that it's like how you let someone down, let someone go is so critical. Nevertheless, Shay, could you share with us a failure that you've learned most from?
Yeah, it's always tricky because I'm like, what is like,
I don't have any failures.
is that no, but like, is that the correct term? Because
Mm,
everything's a lesson, right? But
yeah.
I would say in terms of like a space where I didn't do as great.
Mm,
Um, so part of my business is the one-on-ones with my clients. And then I do also mentor other folks who want to get into the financial services space. And my first experience having to lead someone was a hot mess. Like the the personality part, the kindness, the empathy, all of that stuff I have no issue with, but realizing that just because you're friends with someone does not mean that the process of leading them is going to be easy. Um, and I learned a lot through reading the book Five Levels of Leadership, John Maxwell, and there's 5 levels of leadership. And just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean they necessarily respect you in every aspect. And I had to learn that the hard way. The first person I tried to lead was a friend, and it was really hard to empower them and encourage them to do certain things, even if it wasn't their best interest. And I realized after the fact that we were cool, we could have great conversations, but the respect level wasn't there. And I had to learn how to get them to respect me as a leader. Because I had mentioned before that I'm not the type of person who makes people feel like I know more than them, or I'm not the type of person to belittle someone. But in certain spaces, and even sometimes with gender dynamics, you can feel that it's a different vibe. And so leading myself, I had come to a point where I could lead myself with my eyes closed. Like I could discipline myself, I could all of those things, but other people, that was a really, really big lesson. And now I'm in the space where I'm leading other people, and the second, third, fourth go around is like it's not a walk in the park, but it's definitely better than the first time. And it was just a learning lesson of what I need to do to further develop relationships, to make sure that I am figuring out the whys of other people, figuring out how they like to be communicated with, figuring out what motivates them, and realizing that it's not about me. How do I make it about them? So I would say that's an example of I wasn't great at leading this person, but it was such a good lesson, and it's helping me be better at leading other people.
Yeah, reading people,
Yeah.
understanding their background, their context, where they're coming from. There's so much
Yeah.
psychology to finance, so much.
That too.
When
Mhm.
you were talking, I was thinking about that, like if you were to change your role, instead of being, empathetic and patient to your friend, the very, very common thing that people say in the world of business is, don't take this personally, it's just business. Like how often has that been said, where
Mhm.
you're kind of disregarding the human, which is what David is all about, and you're reducing the situation or them to numbers. Cheryl, we got too much of a head count. We need to let you go. That kind of stuff. I mean, hearing it as a receiving end is obviously tough. You can't really argue, but for those that say it, I'm very curious about. To me, it's maybe not the person, it's the system that needs changing, that needs innovating. The system, the norms, the processes, and that's a tough thing to change. Even if the people on the ship are good people, but the ship itself is rotting. We can't take on 3 more people on our ship because we can't stay afloat because of it. So don't take it personally. You gotta jump ship. There's stuff like that I'm really curious about diving into, and we're going to get there when it comes to advice for starting business and maintaining business and these like tougher situations. But just wanted to seed that into you guys. But let's get to Larry. Larry, tell us a failure that you feel really proud of sharing.
Yeah, I resonate with all the things that everyone on this panel have said and more. I think just because of how what I've done within my career, and don't let my young Asian genes fool you. I've been around for a little while. I've kind of, just because being involved as an investor, as an advisor, I kind of lived multiple roles, right? And lived multiple careers, like multiple businesses in a certain industry. It's like I've had 10 years of that, observing and being involved, and then also doing it in parallel. But so whether it's hiring, like being fired as a client or as a vendor or whatever, it's like I can go through so many things because my whole career has been just trial and tribulation. So I think I want to answer this in a little bit different, in a kind of like a two-step way, and kind of, for me, kind of boil it down into like the culmination of like some key failure, like not key failures, but like I guess like more as like as a category. So, and they're kind of very related. So I think number one is growing up, and maybe it was because of kind of like my Asian upbringing and everything, I kind of had this like very hoarding mentality. It was very goal oriented. I was like, okay, I'm 22. At 25, I want to achieve this. 26, I want this, and then 27, 30. And I really created these self-imposed challenges that weren't really realistic. Maybe for the 0.00001%, and as much experience and everything I have, I'm still nowhere close to these unrealistic goals that I put on myself. And I think that was just not healthy, in terms of, okay, like I reflect and I journal at the beginning of the year for my goals, goal setting, and the end of the year. And as I got older, I was not meeting those goals, and then it kind of put myself in a bad place. And I think number one is just this goal orientation, and being materialistic or milestones is not to say you don't want to have goals, but I think those things have to be like very realistic. And I think maybe as a general failure across multiple things, and even as I continue to learn, I'm still learning how to calibrate that goal setting. It's not, there has to be a balance in terms of how you set that. And I think similar to that, I think being overly optimistic, I think I've always thought, oh, I'm young, like if this fails, like I can always like fix it. I can always make that money back or whatever, which has been true because I've had many failures. But I kind of reflect on some of those things, whether it's being overly aggressive, things that maybe I just went with my gut, but your gut is the right decision, but there may be like a part of this where you should be adjusting your risk. And Shay, probably, I'm sure you talk a lot about this in terms of like people's portfolios and their risk appetite. I'm extremely like YOLO, right? So it's when you're talking about speculative markets, like crypto, blockchain, all that, psychedelics, all those things. Like I'm very, I guess, like aware of what's cutting edge and what's coming up, but at the same time, there has to be a point where you like take money off the table, whether it's public investments or whatever. And I think I've always been like overly optimistic. So I think those two things really go hand in hand, because you're trying to be overly optimistic because you're also trying to reach a goal that you set for yourself. So it's actually this vicious cycle. And it's taken me kind of like the last few years after 31, because 29 to 31 was a miserable time for me. I was like, I'm approaching 30 and I'm like, I'm not going to set these goals. I'm not going to achieve these goals. And once by 31, I was like, I didn't do these things in 31. And then as over 32, 33, now I'm 36, I think the learning that I want to share is what's really brought me to peace and really made me enjoy what I do every day, day in, day out. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter from a monetary standpoint, or if I exit a certain company, is the journey is the destination. And I think, I know Cheryl, you mentioned kind of like, this is where you're at and this is the journey. And I resonate with that so much, because since I've really truly believed this, and people can tell you this, but until I really believe that journey is the destination, I don't want to say I was never like, it wasn't like I was miserable, but it was just like I wasn't at peace. But now the journey is a destination, and every day I wake up, I'm proud of the work I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish. Every day is a gift. And I think that's why it's a culmination of failures. And then this is kind of what I've taken away from it.
Yeah, you're speaking a lot on self-worth and the enoughness, the grass is greener, this moving target that never, ever stops. You're just continuing to chase it. And, success is basically a never-ending graph that points top right. Like, how is that realistic? And how you frame it based on your life and your lifestyle and how you want to live your life is, I think, where you're telling us you've found a little bit more balance. You're being more realistic with your ambitious goals. And of course, your background and that narrative of, from nothing to something can kind of be toxic and addictive. You're trying to continue to prove it, but to who? You've already proved it. So that's like a really interesting, again, psychological look in to what business success is. Cheryl.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because obviously resonate with that so much. But and I have lots of goals, realistic, short. I love short-term goals because I think it's a little bit easier to create realistic short-term goals, and I like to use that as fuel, for future. But one of the things that I really kind of, I guess, changed my thought process is, as athletes, kind of like chasing that PB. Well, this year it's been like really about mental PBs. So it's not always about, a number, it's about how you feel. So I think at that point, it's like such a, this year has been like, okay, yes, even in the, how fast did I run or how fast did I bike? Because once you get there, then, you're just chasing the next goal. So instead of thinking about those PBs, this year is like, for me, it's been all about what are the mental PBs. And that has been something that's been really cool for me. And I think has helped me to say exactly to your point. It is about the journey, and it allows me to think about the feelings that I have that are associated with these great things. And if I'm happy, then, at the end of the day, we're all chasing happiness, and then success and all these things are defined in all these different ways. But mental PBs has been a big thing for me this year. And I think might be something for you to think about too, because it sounds exactly like we're on the same page there.
I wanted to take this time to open the floor to you guys, and if you guys wanted to, ask each other questions, and if there's like a searing, like, hey, do you have a tip for this? I love to just open the floor right before we get into another section. Does anyone want to ask anyone anything? Because this is a chance to like really, you have all these amazing experts here.
I guess I'm curious for Cheryl, like, when's your next race?
Oh, geez.
And like, where is it going to be? Because like, I think that's part of like the you went to Spain and you were able to bring your mom. Like, I think it's such a cool thing to be able to like just travel the world and be able to do that. So I was curious, like, where you're going next.
Yeah, I have so many things planned. It's actually, I love racing, and I feel super blessed that I get to, travel the world doing so. But I guess my next sort of destination race is actually, I'm going back to Mallorca in May. So I'm going to do the same race that I was never able to finish. So I'll be back in Spain in May, and then also back in Spain at the end of next year for World Championships. I'll be in Australia next year for World Championships for another distance, and then traveling around the US as well, and then also hoping to join Julian in some ultras.
Oh,
I want to do the Trans Rockies, and honestly, it's what brings me so much inspiration for business is like you get to spend so much time with all these A-type individuals that have common goals. I travel, like last year I was in Panama. I mean, I met so many people. None of us spoke the same language, but it's all about energy and the fact that you're there with a common goal, and it's like such a beautiful thing. So I'm very fortunate, and lots of races, but my next race is back in Mallorca next May.
Awesome. Full circle.
Full circle. Yeah.
You're with your people when you're amongst that kind of the racing crew, I find that whenever I'm in these races with ultra, it's like seeing brothers and sisters that are, I don't know, everyone has such crazy stories to get to the point where they're running 100 miles at a time. And the respect that you get and that you give it's a whole different stratosphere of sensation when you surround yourself around that community. Even though we're, busy focusing on our own goals and trying to accomplish and working with Mother Nature and being like, okay, can you be kind to me and just let me finish without hurting myself? It's no longer competition. I think many people at that level start to realize, it's not about the competition. I think when business, you see a competitor and you get threatened, I think that's a very short-sighted way of seeing things, especially in, for example, the health, wellness, and fitness industry. We're all here to help people, but when you get lost in the numbers, in the business, in the profits, and the margins, and you kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think a lot of people in business and in entrepreneurship, when they get competitive, I don't know. They might have their own reasons for it, but again, it's a loss of the bigger picture. Has anyone come across people that are in it for the wrong reasons and continue to be successful and quote unquote successful? What is it like to be on that other side when you see someone that's, I don't know, David?
Yeah, being new to the wellness industry was definitely a shock to me. And coming into this industry, from my previous industry, I was all about collaboration. If you don't collaborate in law enforcement, you'll never get anything done. You can't be everyone. You are most of the time the answer to the most serious crisis situations. I literally would talk people off from committing suicide. I've given CPR to people who are dead. I've helped people in violent crimes, arrested criminals. But you have to collaborate. You collaborate with doctors, social workers, family members, and you have no choice but to collaborate to get to the end result of your position. So when I got into the wellness industry, opening up Stretchlab, I thought, I've been collaborating for 26 years, I'll collaborate again. And there was a lot of businesses who were open to collaboration. But there was also a lot of businesses who told me to go sit in the corner because I'm new in this industry, and to tell me that I am new on the block and I should just stay quiet in my own lane. And it was shocking to me because these are coming from other healthcare professionals, and sort of saying to me, you don't know what this industry is about, and you shouldn't really be here, and in little less words, but flexing on me per se, and they didn't stop from letting themselves know, or letting me know, that they've been in this business for X amount of years and I'm the new kid on the block, and just sit tight. So personally, I didn't take any personal attention to it. I just said, okay, maybe I don't know, and maybe this industry is not collaborative as I thought it would be. So I stayed quiet and I just did my own thing. But I honed in on that and just said, I'm going to still pursue the collaboration, and ended up meeting wonderful people. I met you, Julian, and Cheryl, and now I get to meet Shay and Larry as well. And there is people in this for good, and there is people in this for wellness, but there is still that other side of it that don't collaborate, which is a shame, because there's enough money to go around. There's enough business to go around, and there's enough people in Canada and North America to sponsor all of our businesses so that we're all wealthy in any way that you want.
Cheryl was talking about mindset. I think we're kind of leaning into mindset where the perspective is really key. But I'm thinking about abundance mindset versus scarcity, and people probably make these decisions to compete and to not help out because they're perhaps in a scarcity mindset. Can anyone share any thoughts or experiences with people who have that scarce mindset and how you've maybe changed their mind, or maybe you've been in a scarcity mindset? How did you get out of it? Cheryl?
Yeah, I think, I've been talking to people about collaboration since I started City Shred. And when I first started City Shred, actually, a lot of places were not open to collaboration. And, so at my first event, I think there were 4 coaches on the turf. And now I'll have, 20, 25, 30 plus. And I think that, it's a different journey for all of us. So first and foremost, like, I always try to be kind and understanding where someone else is, and realize that, for every one person, who may have that mindset, there are like 5 or 10 other people who are right where we are. So, when I first started back in 2018, I had a lot of people saying, like, why would I be out there at City Shred with all of my competitors? And I was like, well, because if you have a great product, you shouldn't be scared to show it. And also, if you have a great product, you actually also shouldn't be worried about, talking about another great product because you have a great product. And I think that honestly, just like education in general, and the more conversations that we're able to have, just brings more people sort of like through the funnel. Because, since 2018 and the 4 trainers I've had on the turf, and now being able to really work with, almost every single gym or, small business is just like such a great example and showcase of how people really do start to understand why collaboration is so important. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think that strategic partnerships is, a tactic that everyone should be using in their businesses, because, it's such a cost-efficient way to be able to tap into a like-minded audience. So, for any person who isn't collaborating, they really are just truly doing a disservice for themselves. And but I always just try to keep the mind of saying, like, hey, listen, all good, give me a call when you are ready.
Yep.
And I'm always sure that that it will happen. And I'm definitely always open and ready to chat when they are as well. But there's lots of people that are willing to collaborate. So I always try to say, for that one person who does have that mindset, there's probably 5 or 10 people that, are right where we're hoping that they will be.
Absolutely. Team, what we're going to do for the next bit is some quickfire advice. I was going to do a quickfire round with favorite books and all that stuff. But what I would love to do is, from your background, advice for starting a business. Because we all come from different backgrounds, it'd be really nice to get some specific tips and advice. So why don't we start with Mula, finance. Shay, do you have any advice for anyone that's looking to start a business?
Just one.
1, 2 tips, whatever, anything that's really financial based.
Financial based.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to invest. I think there's a fear sometimes of spending money, like, in general. So the average person, it's weird, because I think collectively we have a spending problem, but there's also that side where we are afraid to spend money. And I think that's directly connected to our belief in ourselves sometimes. So Sometimes, popular quote is you have to spend money to make money. And I think that does ring true. So not being afraid to, if you have to rent out a venue to put on an event that's going to bring awareness to what you're doing, if you got to hire somebody who's going to streamline your business or help you, be more productive, sometimes you got to do it. Something that's not money related, I would say, is a schedule. So having work hours, this is something that even to this day I've had to work through. I make adjustments to my schedule to fit people in constantly, even though Wednesdays are my off days. And I am still working through getting better at that, because at the end of the day, people are coming to me for a service. And if I'm not available, then I'm not available. They have to pick another day. And I think that's a boundary that's important to set. So the schedule might change. Like my availability has changed so many times since I've started, even since the beginning of this year. But making sure that there's a set schedule and doing your best to honor those days that you aren't working, because burnout is real and it's just going to set you back. So those would be my two tips.
Yeah, for anyone that's listening, that's an entrepreneur, that is so key. I live and die by my schedule. And those boundaries are really, really protected. And speaking about energy, right, Cheryl, we know this. We need to protect our energy. So that's amazing tips. Larry, any advice?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. So my go-to response always is just start. I think a lot of people that want to be an entrepreneur or be a business owner, it's going to be very likely that the first business that they're going to start is not going to be their first and not their last. And the reason why I say just start is because people have this kind of like decision paralysis. And maybe it's partly what Shay said is like people have this self-doubt. But why I say start is because this was there maybe as a side hustle, right? Even like I'm a big proponent of side hustles, even employees of my businesses, because they're using that as a creativity outlet, or they're learning a new skill and something that maybe actually brings more value to my businesses. And it'd be hypocritical for me to say, no, don't diverse or don't like try to do these things. So when I say start, I think it really revolves around the idea of like being able to learn a specific skill set and then starting from there. So if you're trying to sell, I don't know, like I told a lot of people about this, like sell, what are they called? Those little plants, they don't die.
Bonsai trees.
Bonsai trees, or like
Succulents?
the succulents or whatever. Yeah, it's not going to be some crazy enterprise, and maybe you can make it, right? But even if you learn to sell succulent plants for $10 or whatever, you're going to learn how to build a Shopify site. You're going to learn about marketing. You're going to learn about incorporating. You're going to understand the difference between sole proprietorship versus GP. Like, is this by doing? You're just going to learn. And I think the biggest advantage of that is when you actually have that real idea that you want to have as a business, you've already gone through some of those processes and you're not just starting from scratch. So you're actually now like 2 or 3 steps ahead versus waiting for that perfect opportunity.
I like the just start. In the world of, let's say, like athleticism or racing, just register for the race, put it in the calendar, and then everything just lines up. So yeah, it makes it real. It makes what's in here a reality. So yeah, thanks for that advice, Larry. David, do you have any advice?
Yeah, two pieces of advice. The first one is patience. Patience is a virtue, and you really need to have it. In my previous job, the quote was "Hurry up and wait," and it is true to business, especially when you're building brick and mortar or trying to deal with a bank and stuff like that. So hurry up and wait is the key. The second piece of advice I would say is don't be afraid of change and learning from people who are not as tenured. Be open to listening to your employees, be open to listening, and use the 90-10 rule. 90% listening, 10% talking.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, advice can be learned from so many different people.
Very much so. I profess at not being an expert on anything and knowledgeable on everything. So learning from people who are less than you, ahead of you, it is so valuable in life, just to listen to people, because you don't know what people know and you don't know what people don't know. So you can learn something from anyone and everyone.
Yeah, I learn all the time from my baby nephew, Otto.
Sure.
So much stuff.
They know how to squat the best.
Yeah, exactly. They have a bit of an advantage because their head ratio is bigger than their body, but I get what you're saying. Cheryl, how about you? Advice?
Yeah, okay. Advice. I'll say maybe just like from like a marketing perspective, but I think, education is the leading content on the internet, and we are so blessed to be in a time where there is free education everywhere. Really understand who your audience is. We have the availability to look at our competitors. I mean, years ago when putting together a SWOT analysis, we were trying to pull things from every which direction. It's literally all out there, public knowledge from social media to from websites, so on and so forth. So, a lot of like R&D, I think, is really important. Even as like a new business, one of the things that I love doing, even especially like right now, we're getting to the end of the year, I'm constantly Googling like top marketing campaigns of 2024. And it doesn't even need to just be in the fitness industry or the wellness industry. There's something to be learned. I love looking at brands, for example, like Coca-Cola. We do not have anywhere near the same budget, but there's something to really learn there, whether it's like, years ago when Coca-Cola was putting like names across the cans, like whether or not you drank Coca-Cola, many people ran over to see if their names were on the can. What does that tell you? Not that Coca-Cola is doing something great, the importance of customization. Same thing, around the holidays, lots of people are looking at campaigns that are very nostalgic. Again, it's not about the amount of dollars. It's about taking the trends and the way that these companies with massive budgets are being able to connect to their consumers. And then it's being able to take the budget that you have and create those same feelings. So marketing is about creating feelings. So I think the fact, if we can all learn and just really be able to identify the fact that we're so lucky to have all of this free education at our fingertips, it will help all of us get so much further.
Yeah, wow. That could be like a course for sure. Have you thought about teaching, Cheryl?
I mean, I really love it. I love it. At some point I do. I love marketing. I love research, and I love connecting. So who knows?
Wow. Well, I love all the advice. I feel like there's so much we can extract from you guys. What I'd love to do is maybe you can share what's upcoming for you. Anything that you want to promote, share to each other, invite each other to. What's something that's upcoming for you? Shay?
Yes, so in honor of Financial Literacy Month, which is November, I do have some Instagram lives that I am hosting with some really cool people that I know. So I really enjoy. Actually, Cheryl, you were mentioning this earlier when it comes to collaboration, the idea of exchanging audiences and having just an awesome, candid conversation. So I'm featuring people from different industries, singer-songwriters, event planners, authors, and I want to introduce them to my audience and also ask them like what's a top money tip that they've learned that's helped them throughout their life. And then it's also a way to introduce me to their audience as well. So I have a few lined up for November, and then I also have some in December, and those are all posted on my Instagram, which is Finance for the Culture.
Well, I feel like you have 3 other experts here that you can add to your
Yes.
list for maybe 2025.
Yes. Would love to.
For sure, I think that's a big part of belonging to this crew is now there's an introduction, and hopefully it's like, don't be shy, reach out, ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. David, how about you? Anything that's coming up that you want to share?
Yeah, I went to a small business appreciation night with Amex a couple weeks ago, and I was introduced to a slew of other small business owners, and we were able to meet a gentleman and his wife. His name is Legend, and his wife is Kempe, and they run a company called Crochet and Jazz, and he teaches crochet to people and as a relaxation technique. He's such a great individual. So we're going to be doing a joint night of crochet, jazz, and stretching at Stretchlab. So we'll be doing that in December. So keep your eye out on our socials for that coming up. We're donating some money to men's shelters in Toronto, but he is such a wonderful individual. It is such a great thing to involve people into, and I'm going to the first event, and if you have the ability on the November 18th is his actual crochet Art of Crochet and Jazz at the Drake Hotel. There's still tickets available. It's Monday evening. I'm going to be there, so if you do have the availability, come by, support it. It's a great thing to do. Obviously, crochet, everyone thinks it's for 90-year-old grandmothers, but apparently it's very relaxing. So I'm going to go out, and his wife has a beautiful jazz voice, and they do some singing and stuff like that. So if you do have the availability, come. It's their last one of this year. If not, look out for our socials and come on over to Stretchlab when we have them there.
All right, sweet. I'd love to try my hand at crochet.
Yeah.
You could be pretty good at it too. Cheryl.
Yeah, I guess I'll start out by saying that anything that I can do to help amplify the things that you guys are working on, I'd love to connect with you, whether that's sharing through City Shred. I'd really like to use that platform to, help promote things that are going on within our industry. I mean, it's really important to provide value, obviously, to our database. And of course, you guys are all incredible, and these are all incredible things you guys are doing. So please do share them with me. And I think further to that, I mean, I have lots of events coming up in 2025 for City Shred. I'm launching into New York and LA. I'm launching into Montreal and some new events across Canada, which I'm really excited about. And then also for myself, I haven't launched it yet, but I'm also launching a project that will be a community focused for women in endurance sports. And it really is centered around, all the incredible things that athletes are doing, but more importantly, the celebration piece, because I think, effort is effort. And everyone deserves to be celebrated equally. And I'm very passionate about talking about the importance of celebration. So I'm really looking forward to also launching this women's community and talking more about celebration. But would love for you guys to check out my events and at city_shred, and just to connect with all of you and, just let me know what you guys are working on. That's me.
Woo. All right. And Larry?
Yeah, actually, David, I was at that dinner a couple of weeks ago. So Legend was one of the presenters. So it was actually really cool to hear him present, and you're talking about collaboration, and to see that this is kind of the outcome from that dinner. So that's actually really, really, really cool. So for myself, over the past 3 years or so, I've been building Run As You Are, which is this retail store running health concept, but we have a retail store in Vancouver. But really, we're a health technology company. So what's really exciting is we are finally kind of releasing Run Ready, which is our health division. We're created kind of this gold standard for run assessments. where we create our own health protocol. And then from that, we actually pair and match you with the right footwear that's mainstream based on its ability to absorb cushioning or absorb impact and also release energy. Something that I know Julian and I have chatted a lot about. So this is a platform that, or I guess like we're going to be providing health services in our Vancouver location, but then early next year, we will be launching the software tool to other practitioners so that we can actually reach runners all over the world. So we actually just launched a 10-episode documentary series. So it's on runready.io. We're on episode 3 or 4, and then we have episode 5 coming this week. So all the thousands of hours of work that we put into this whole company, we've kind of made into a mini documentary to help the world understand what we built. So yeah.
That's so cool. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, congrats to all of you for all the stuff that you've done and how you are shaping the world with your energy, with your patience, your empathy, your ingenuity. There's so much that we can learn from yourselves, but each other. This platform, this initiative is about connecting and just getting that first conversation. And however formal it sounds, sometimes it's just the way things are, but I hope for the future of this to be done in person. I'm looking to rebrand the 2.0 company into next year, and I'd love to find a space that can house more of these conversations. Could have like, yes, for sure, pop-ups, but I've taken a lot of the stuff that you guys have said during the advice round to heart, especially like the just start. I think that there's a lot of, let's say, like lack of self-belief. I've helped a lot of companies excel and grow and do really well, and I think it's about time to come back and focus on the things that I believe in, invest in my ideas. So for those who are listening and watching, 2025 will be an interesting year where we'll take these masterminds in real life and also continue to hybrid it through the virtual world too. And hopefully the service will help platform more of these conversations, but I'm really in it to not just connect you all, but to take care of us. I don't think people are looking out for each other. I think it's not because they don't want to. I think it's just a lack of bandwidth. And for me, I dedicated my energy to not only connecting to you guys, but make sure that you're taken care of. Because oftentimes the caregiver doesn't really get the time of day. And I think that's not fair. And it's also something that leads to burnout. And we need more energy, more time, and care for caregivers. So that's sort of my mission for next year, is to kind of bring us together and iron sharpens iron. It also needs to see each other in vulnerable positions and states, and why not connect us? We're so much better for it. So that's what we have to look forward to for next year. And I definitely will reach out to you all individually to start asking for more tips about what I can do to put this 2.0 platform into maybe a brick and mortar space. I have no idea. I'm nervous when I talk about it. So I kind of good that I can facilitate and say this is the end. But thank you everyone for joining in. I really, really value your time and energy, because I know that where you could spend it could be of such value elsewhere as well. So it really, really means a lot. From the bottom of my heart, really, truly, it does. And I don't take it for granted. So if there's any connections that you need from me, since I am definitely someone who loves to connect and cross-pollinate, please do not hesitate to ask. What I'd love to do is just do a quick screenshot of us. So if you guys could, like, I don't know, put up a smile or a thumbs up or a peace sign. I'm just going to do a screenshot of us. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yay. All right. Well, that concludes a mastermind. Thank you again. And we'll see you next time. All
Thank you
right.
so much. That
You're
was
welcome.
Nice
amazing.
meeting everyone.
Yeah,
Okay.
likewise.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye,
Have a
everyone.
good night, guys.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.